Many people want to see a ceasefire in Ukraine. I would like to see a ceasefire in Ukraine. Russia has repeatedly made it clear that they have no interest in a serious ceasefire. They are running a war economy. They are increasingly reliant on endless conflict. They don't want to end the war yet. Some people think that cutting aid to Ukraine will somehow help to deliver a peace deal. It won't. If we did that, Ukraine would face the possibility of total defeat. And we know that that is what Russia wants. At best, they would accept a temporary ceasefire and just use it as an opportunity to regroup. If Ukraine has nothing to lose, the fight will drag on, and it will get uglier and uglier. The West needs to send Ukraine significant military support. This is how we give them the leverage that they need to secure an optimal ceasefire deal. That is the reality. If we want a peace deal, we need to give Ukraine leverage. Western support makes a ceasefire more likely, because it gives Ukraine the leverage it needs to finally intimidate Putin into accepting a reasonable ceasefire deal. If Ukraine is abandoned, the war will continue to grind on, and many more people will die. But that does not have to be the case. Many people seem to think that an eventual Russian victory is inevitable. Wars do not necessarily end with a total victory for one side. Look at the Iran-Iraq war, for example. Look at the Yom Kippur War. It is quite common for a war to end on a ceasefire with neither side fully satisfied. There is no reason to think Ukraine's total defeat is inevitable. Russia is advancing, but only incredibly slowly. At this pace, their government, military, and economy will collapse before victory can be achieved. With Western support, that threat becomes even greater, and Russia is forced to take negotiations more seriously. And if Ukraine has sufficient leverage, a relatively fair ceasefire deal could be reached. Putin has made it very clear that he wants all of Ukraine, but with sufficient Western support, that can be made entirely impossible. And he must not be allowed to take all of Ukraine. That would reward and encourage wars of conquest. That would allow him to set his sights on additional targets, risking an even larger war. And seizing Ukraine would not be the end of the war, it would just be the start of a long and bloody insurgency, and we all know it. Many people think Russia's victory is inevitable because they are unrivaled in their capacity to fight wars of attrition. This narrative is largely born out of their performance in the Second World War. People forget that at that time it was not Russia, but instead the Soviet Union that was fighting. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union and took even heavier losses than Russia. So Ukraine also has a legacy of winning wars of attrition. And as a technologically advanced defender, Ukraine has a lot of advantages in that war of attrition. With Western support, Ukraine has even more advantages. This increases their leverage and gives Putin more reason to come to the negotiating table. Or he risks the total collapse of his disgusting regime. For the sake of peace, supporting Ukraine is essential. This will give them the leverage they need to secure a ceasefire. This will increase the chances of Putin's regime collapsing under greater economic and political pressure. If you want peace, supporting Ukraine is the only serious option. The alternative is endless conflict. The alternative is the failed strategy of appeasement. The alternative is to reward and encourage belligerent behaviour. We have to support Ukraine. This is the only path towards a sustainable peace.